A golden velvet cake is simply a red velvet cake that does not have enough red food coloring. Now keep in mind, when you're doing a vegan red velvet cake, you're not using the red food coloring because of the carmine and the cochineal beetles. I use red beet powder. So what you do, if you want to get a golden velvet cake instead of red velvet, you use less beet powder. If you want a red velvet cake, you use the whole pack. Keep in mind the powder is different than the food color. And the red doesn't come out like a rich, deep red. It comes out more like a hibiscus kind of red. It's a very light colored red. So a golden velvet cake tastes just like a red velvet cake. The only difference is it's a red velvet cake that didn't use that much beet powder, so it came out golden during the baking process. Okay, I have all of my dry ingredients, including all 3 of my gluten-free flours. By the way, I didn't have brown rice flour, so I just used this kind of flour, this gluten-free cake mix. And I believe it'll work just as well. And I'm just sifting this. Well, kind of mixing it in together, kind of getting all the clumps out. Okay, I have not yet added my baking soda because once again I say that it makes a chemical reaction. So now I'm going to add my baking soda. Also, with gluten-free and vegan cake mixes, please follow the directions step by step. It's not always good. If you see a regular kind of cake mix and stuff, you want to substitute the eggs, it's not always the best thing to do that because it doesn't always come out right. Because vegan and gluten-free baking is a whole different animal from baking with eggs and just your standard wheat ingredients. Okay, I'm taking a teaspoon of baking soda, making sure that I'm measuring as accurately as possible. And I'm going to add this to my dry ingredients. Make sure that's a teaspoon. Okay, I'm going to stir this in. You don't have to stir gluten-free mix as gently as you would whole wheat pastry flour because the gluten is not in there. So you don't have to worry about overworking some gluten or stuff like that. I'm just mixing this gently because this bowl is a little smaller. Okay, set this aside real quick. And in this bowl, I have already prepared my vegan buttermilk, and I've added egg replacer to this. Uh-oh, got my pastry brush in there by mistake. Okay, so this is my wet ingredients, and to this I'm going to add my oil and my sugar. And I'm using vegan sugar, of course. Now I'm going to add my oil. Going to mix this. Okay, I am out of vanilla today, so I'm going to use 1 teaspoon of vanilla flavored almond milk to make my red paste. 1 teaspoon. And of course, instead of red food coloring, I'm making a mess, I'm using red beet powder. My red beet powder. Now keep in mind, since this is powder and not red food coloring, you're going to need to add just a little more almond milk or some type of water. If you're using vanilla, then it'll already be wet. And I need a tablespoon of cocoa, and this is the kind I'm using. And it is dairy free. This is Ghirardelli, and it's dairy free. Now if I mispronounce that, please forgive me. Alrighty, now I'm stirring in my red bread and cocoa paste. Now I'm going to fill my cake pan. I want to evenly distribute the batter as much as possible. Now I have a bigger pan like this, but I'm going to do cupcakes. That's how full I filled it. Now normally I would be a little more neater on my cupcake distribution, but I'm working fast here. By the way, this is sorghum flour, and I bought this at the Asian market, but you can also buy it in your health food section or, of course, at Whole Foods. Ghirardelli chocolate, tapioca flour, Bob's bread meal, gluten-free all-purpose baking flour. Now this is what I've used instead of brown rice flour. You can use brown rice flour if you don't use this, along with the tapioca and the sorghum. Xanthan gum. This is what helps the gluten-free cake be more like a regular cake. And for the apple cider vinegar, I suggest you get Bragg's.